Welcome to Where Are They Now? I am your host, Heather Lindstad, class of 1985, and today it's a great privilege to have Billy Keohane, class of 1974, with me today. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Heather. It's a real pleasure to be here with you tonight.
You know, I think when I see you, I think, okay, it's all about Chelmsford, because you just have so many stories, so many things, and you've been obviously a resident of Chelmsford for so long. But I think it all started right back when you were in school. You were part of everything.
I got involved. I did.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in school, I went through first grade all the way through 12th grade in Chelmsford. It was a very, very tumultuous time for the town. Population was growing, so again, we had the North School was elementary school. When I started, it went all the way to 6th grade. By the time I finished 3 years later, it had only went to the 4th grade. We ended up in a Quessy school. Then we ended up actually in this school where this studio is. I went to 6th grade. They stuck 2 6th grades in here. Then we all went to McFarland School. And then we went back over here for our junior high school for 8th and 9th. Then to the high school for 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Which was then McCarthy.
Yeah, it was McCarthy. We were the last class to graduate from McCarthy.
Yeah.
1974. That's when they decided to make that a junior high school, middle school combination, I believe. Or at the time, I think it might have been just junior high. But the town was growing. And but even despite all that, moving all the different schools, I had some great friendships. People that I have friends today that, you know, we grew up, we were classmates. And there's something special about Chelmsford in a way that, you know, I'm sure every town has this little connection. But I'll tell you, the depth of it in Chelmsford, the people that, they don't just move on. And they don't just, they seem to become part of the root system. And, you know, kids, in my job, I met kids, their parents and grandparents grew up in Chelmsford. So, yeah, Chelmsford's special.
Well, oh yeah, well I definitely know that because I was told that at a young age too, how special Chelmsford was. But,
Yeah.
But as you were moving, but where did you get that go get 'em attitude? And I mean, right? So you were
Yeah, I don't
class
know.
president. You were doing all
I was
those
the
things.
youngest of 6.
Okay.
And I was 5 years between my next oldest sister.
Yeah.
My dad died when I was very young. So school and my activities outside the home became more of an interest to me. I played, you know, sandlot ball when I was younger, and I played football at the high school, but hurt my knee, so I didn't. So I had to find some way to kind of have my voice heard. So getting involved in clubs and activities in school always became something interesting. And it's a flashback. This studio here, when I was in 9th grade, we used to put on a morning program 5 days a week. Chris Cimarellis, Mr. Cimarellis at the time, but later on I got to know him, was our class advisor, teacher advisor. And every morning we'd come down here, and I happened to be very interested in the mechanics of behind the scenes. So I was the student director, but we had people who would sit at the table here and read the news. And it was really cool. And we didn't have those announcements on the PA that they do today or in some places, you know. We actually put on a show, and the TVs went on in the morning before school. And so I really got involved, and I kind of liked that. So staying involved, it became a natural thing for me. So.
But it is also because of the teachers that you had that convince you, and I don't want to say convince you, but that
they inspired me.
Yeah. You to
there was
do those
one teacher, she was an 8th grade English teacher, Bonnie Sunstein was her name. She really sparked me to get involved in the community and to television here and then in politics. I had a guy, Dan LeClaire, he was a social studies teacher at the high school. He got me involved in politics. I became a student representative for some of the town elections, and that grew into something else. And then all of a sudden, this little guy appears at the high school, George Simonian, Mr. Simonian, of course, and Mr. Chelmsford. And he made us feel like we mattered. You know, like he would call us in and ask our opinion. When they were building the high school, he'd get groups of us, and he'd pull us out of class and go down in his little bug down to see what was going on. It was the coolest thing. So those are the types of things that just kind of kept building on a foundation of interest to begin with, yeah.
But you didn't want to go into education.
No, I didn't want to be a teacher. You know what? I went to school. I was going to go to law school, and then as I started progressing, I went to Lowell State Teachers. Last year was Lowell State. Yep. Became University of Lowell University the year after, merged between Lowell State and Lowell Tech, and I got really involved with that. And it was a meeting that I had. And again, a great school to become a teacher. All my friends were going there,
Right.
they were going to be teachers.
Yeah.
I was going for political science, and I was interested in government.
Obviously, from a social studies.
Yeah, in the election thing, and the government thing, I started finding a fascination with our whole Constitution and how our country run. And specifically, I attended town meeting and got interested in the way the process worked here in town. And I had some good teachers at the high school that kind of, they helped me with that. They kept me kind of always interested in stuff. And like I say, Dan Leclerc, I can tell you, Mr. Quinn, Mr. Boucher, these are some of the names. They go back. I mean, I graduated in the 70s, but when I first started out, it was the late 60s, early 70s, getting involved in things. And the great thing about the educators in Chelmsford, in my opinion, was they took an interest in every student. It wasn't just the kids that were excelling. In fact, we had double sessions the last couple of years I was in school. And it was tough on the kids that went in the afternoon, because the kids in the afternoon were the kids that weren't active, you know. They had the seniors all in the morning so they could keep the class together. Anybody who was in a sport and anybody who was in an extracurricular activity got to come in the morning. So we were all homogeneous. But I got to go in the afternoons and kind of do other things because I was a class president. You know, it was really kind of cool. But I could see that same interest and that same intensity and that same desire to teach and care was given to the kids in the afternoon as well as it was to the kids in the morning. And that inspired me, too, to kind of give back to the town a little bit and, you know, continue that, that connection that we all had, you know, as members of a community. It started in school every year. It just grew and grew and grew.
Right.
Yeah.
But so then you went to, though, and you went poli-sci.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and I got involved there. I got elected to the activities committee.
Yeah.
First thing. And I'm sitting in a room, and there's about 50 of us, and from all 4 years of college and all the different, majors. And this guy calls me over. He's a big guy. And he says, "Hi, I'm Everett Olson." Well, he was the acting president of Lowell. He was the president of Lowell Technological Institute, Lowell Tech, from North Chelmsford, the best part of town.
Right.
So he says, but he knew, this is the thing, this guy was great. He knew I was from North Chelmsford because he told me, he says, "You're from North Chelmsford, you're going to sit next to me." So again, I had some great mentors all the way through life. I was very fortunate to meet some special people. So we had a big meeting, the activities group, that we broke off into groups. And I met with the alumni one night, and I thought, this is pretty good. These alumni would spend time to come back and spend time with us to mentor us, you know. And I thought, this is a great idea. I said, we should do that at the high school. So here's Mr. Simone, and he's a little under a year in his first year in this new big school he's just built. And I got down and visit with him, and I said, "Hey, we need an alumni association." We don't need no alumni association. So anyway, I stayed my 4 years at Lowell State, and I did some coursework down at BC. And I come out of there, and I went to work for the state of Massachusetts. And like I said, the law school kind of fell into the background. I said, maybe at some point in the future. I became at the time they were called personnel administrator at Tewksbury Hospital. We had 1,100 employees, 600 patients, 24/7. And I'm like 22, 23 years old, and I'm like, what in the heck am I doing? But that was a great experience. I worked at the State House. I kept the whole government thing, but there was something burning inside that I wanted to expand out of this box I was in. I wanted to own my own business. And now all hell broke loose, and I ended up leaving that and buying a store and bought it at the worst time in the world. The store was going bust. I had a brother who was a firefighter, said, "Become a firefighter." And I'm there like, I don't think so. I don't want to do that. But I'm going broke, which is a bad reason to do anything.
And I want to stay in Chelmsford?
And I want to stay in Chelmsford. Actually, it's funny. I was living in Tingsboro. I left Chelmsford for a couple of years. Yeah. I was living in Tingsboro. And so I moved back into Chelmsford. I took the test. And I topped the test, not bragging, but I topped the test, me and a couple of other guys, and Freddie Reed, I'm in my store, Freddie Reed, the former retired past chief, he comes walking in the store, and he goes, "You want to be a firefighter?" And he looked at me like, "You don't want to be a firefighter." I said, "Yeah, I really do." And I really didn't.
Well, my brother said.
Right? And he says, "All right, come down and see me." Well, that was 1984. I got hired. I started a career that I never thought I'd last more than a few years in, and 36 and a half years later, I retired. And it was the best move I ever made. It's a family. It's there's all the dynamics of a family.
Yep.
But again, it's the roots of the town, the people at work that care about the town. It was just, yeah, so that's, I mean, I did a million other things besides. I don't know why, but me and two other guys owned 100 apartments in New Hampshire. I ran a store for 10 years. I was on a housing authority for 20 years. I mean.
But it also gave you a connection to Mr. Simonian.
Oh.
Gave you some more time to wiggle room to say, hey, by the way, we still need that alumni association.
1989, Heather. I'm standing in First Bank. For anybody who remembers, that was the bank in the center that they're converting into a steakhouse right now,
Yes.
and got eaten up by a bunch of other banks. I'm standing there, making a deposit from my store, and down the end I look and there's Mr. Simonian, and I go, how about we start that alumni association now? Now that's 1989, and I was bugging him since 1978. Right? And he looked at me and he says, okay. And he had just retired, or was in the process of retiring as principal of the high school. So him and I walk out the door, and I said, he was like, what do you mean? What are we going to do? I said, well, we're going to start an alumni association for the high school. You know, we're going to model it after a good college program. And as we're standing there talking, and he's kind of agreeing and going along with it, Bill Logan is walking down the sidewalk. And I go, Billy, come here. And we took him into, the three of us sat down and we formed it. We got Dennis McHugh and a few other people. I think it was one of your aunts joined us, and we sat down in George's kitchen. We had the paperwork drawn up. We became legal. And here we are, how many years later, giving away an average of $50,000, $60,000 a year in scholarships. We have one of the most amazing Hall of Fames because it recognizes people for accomplishments, not necessarily sports, which is great. But, you know, some people during high school couldn't participate in sports. They couldn't even do any activities because they were working or whatever. They did some amazing things afterwards. So George had this concept of a Hall of Fame that recognizes lots of people. And that's just taken off. It's a great activity that we sponsor every year. Plus we have a mentorship program where people go back to the high school. Yeah, it's become a great organization.
It's not only a great organization. Again, you said about the fire department. It's like a family, though.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's something that, and now people look at it and aspire to it too. Like,
yeah,
I want to give back, and
right.
I want to do the little extras. But the best thing about it is that it highlights people that you probably didn't realize what they were doing in high school, and that the impact that they've had outside. But whenever you talk to a Hall of Famer, they always say, I got my start because of the teachers.
Exactly. We have one, I mean, not to throw any special names around, but we have a particular gentleman who didn't shine in high school, let's say. But he felt like Chelmsford High School gave him the foundation for what came later, and he rose to become the CEO of General Electric Banking, okay? And one of the examples of his gifts back, he sponsors 2 of our scholarships every year, and very generous. But he gave $5 million to Bentley, so, and they ended up naming a building after his family. But he specifically told us when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame that it was the teachers at Chelmsford High School that really inspired him to work hard no matter what you do.
Right.
And to give back to your community and participate. I have 3 daughters that graduated from Chelmsford High School, and I'm very proud of that. And they are in turn going on. One of them is studying to be a doctor of audiology, another one a neurosurgeon. I actually have a daughter. I apologize. My youngest is still in Chelmsford High School.
Yeah,
I started a little late. She's a junior.
Right.
But it's really cool to go watch her play soccer and basketball, and that's a big part of what I do now. I'm involved with my kids' activities. And
so how did you feel, though, when you got inducted to the Hall of Fame?
Oh, guess what? It's the same year my oldest daughter was being born. But to guess which one meant the most, at the time, the Hall of Fame was like so special. It's an honor you just can't even imagine because you're recognized by your peers.
Right.
You're recognized by an organization that's about your school, and it meant so much to me. It really did. I can't even tell you. I don't usually cry when I speak. I talk to a lot of groups, but I got teary-eyed that night. I really did. It was very special. I can still feel, I'm getting teary-eyed right
Right.
now. thinking about that. Yeah, that was a special night. I was like, I don't deserve it, because again, you see the people that are getting inducted, there's some heavy hitters. But it was an honor I truly cherish and appreciate.
Right. But I think it is, it's a different definition of what a Hall of Fame is. And
Yeah.
I think that's why there are way more different occupations, different personalities, and those kind of things. And it really is,
And it's a nice opportunity to
It's like a
recognize.
melting pot.
Yeah, to recognize people,
Right.
though, again, that didn't have that ability, sports, that's a great way to recognize people. That seems to be the thing that Hall of Fame. But I think it's great that we have recognized people for all their facets of life, all the different opportunities. But it's mostly we try and recognize people that have given back
Right.
to their community,
Right.
to their community, whatever that community may be. Some people it's a nonprofit. Some people it's a business community. Some people it is sports. Education it's always education is so important.
Right.
Because that's the foundation of everything, isn't it? Good education.
Well, and again, I was going to say good education, but do you think though you took chances, right, in different things, buying a different store, those kind of things. Do you really feel like sometimes though you always had the backing of Chelmsford High School?
Always, always. And that's again, I think Chelmsford High School, and even today, and I see it over there now, is they allow a person to be who they are, and they encourage them to go after that, and not just put them in a box or in a tunnel and keep them in that. And that's the thing. Chelmsford High School inspires people to be whoever they want to be at that time. They have a great arts program, great athletic program. They have all kinds of opportunities, and that's what you want. You want a school system that keeps building that up, and then the high school is kind of like the crowning moment and the opportunity to let everybody shine. And I think it does a good job at it.
And how did you feel like when your first daughter went there, though? Were you nervous for her? Was she nervous about, disappointing Dad and the whole thing?
Well, it's funny.
Or how was that?
It's funny because she said, my name's on the wall.
Okay, yeah.
That was the first thing she said. But the great thing about it is she went in there a lot higher in esteem than I went into Chelmsford High School. Her name's on the wall here at Parker.
Okay.
Okay? So she was already being recognized. My kids are just amazing, and not because of me. But it was nervous, Luckily, there's pretty good amount of time, so I didn't know every teacher, but I did know a lot of them. So I would get a little note from somebody that says, this your daughter, or,
Yeah.
or is it your niece or whatever. They didn't want to say, is this your granddaughter, because then that's too much of an insult.
Right.
But no, but it was definitely a nervous experience when the first one went there. Because I wanted her to feel comfortable and not feel like she had anything to live up to.
Right.
Right? And again, it was kind of cool as far as that goes, because a lot of the teachers that I had already retired. But there were still quite a few that were working there.
But don't you think it's a nice feeling about what you described as the teachers when you had them, that community or that spirit has stayed with the teachers that are still getting hired and still giving to students like your daughters?
And I think it's cultivated because you look at who the principal is. He's a high school, Chelmsford High graduate. The couple of the deans are Chelmsford High graduates. So many of the teachers are Chelmsford High graduates. I mean, Chelmsford puts out some great educators. I think we've got like 2 or 3 superintendents in the area that Chelmsford High graduates, Bill Olson, who's actually right now a temporary superintendent up in New Hampshire, was a Chelmsford High graduate, and he was the Westford superintendent for a number of years, and the guy that replaced him was a Chelmsford High graduate. So, and I think, if you go over there, you see it's a continuum.
Right.
It's, and they cultivate it amongst themselves, and they keep it up. You know what I mean? It's like they want to keep that special feeling over there. It's a special feeling.
Yeah.
Because during tumultuous times and during times of financial questions of whether you can afford things, they still make it happen.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about making the opportunities available to the kids.
Right.
And they still do a great job at it. Yeah.
And what other kind of connections do you feel like, though, to the town of Chelmsford that is given back to you?
Well, again, first of all, growing up in North Chelmsford, it's a funny thing about Chelmsford, too. We have our sections, right? Like each section could be its own town.
Right.
So everybody up there is like, and they think they're their own town. They have their own town hall and their own common and things, you know. So, and history is kind of like my. That's really where I love talking about history, and I think at some point there had to be Chelmsford North was going to, you know, go off and become its own town, like kind of like North Andover, North Weymouth, North Attleboro, things like that. But the farmers in town were pretty smart. They knew where their money was coming from, all their taxes, so they figured out a way to keep them. You know, build them a town hall, and let them have the meetings once in a while. But anyway, so that close knitness up in North Chelmsford. Even like I said, I grew up at the end of the Vietnam War, and when the town was growing population-wise faster than it had ever grown, we went from a couple of elementary schools to 5 big elementary schools. Quessy was a 4-room schoolhouse that had been closed down, had to be reopened. The Highland School. There's one connection I have with all of this too. When I went on the Housing Authority, the first building I developed is the old McFarland School that I went to.
Right, yeah.
Right? And the old high school, which is now town offices, was our 7th grade. We were actually up on the top hill. Down below the McFarland was an elementary school. But we used to go down there for gym, indoor gym, and our cafeteria. So I had this cool connection, and then the second property I developed is, I was the first executive director of the Housing Authority too. We developed the property, which was the old North School property. It burned down.
Yep.
We put an elderly housing project up there, which got named after Ruth Delaney, another person who didn't grow up in town, but found a real connection to the town and gave back years and years to the town. Like I said, Chelmsford's special. It's just a great group of people that, you know, they care about each other. And they care about where they're going. And it's not just today, it's, you know, what's going to happen tomorrow.
And speaking of that, the nice thing about the Hall of Fame too, let's bring that in, that there have been teachers that didn't have to go to Chelmsford High.
Right.
That we've inducted, right?
Yeah,
So,
we had 2 ways of doing that too. We voted it in that you could be a teacher, but we preferred you be retired. But we also have a thing called the Golden Lion Award.
Right.
So we get to recognize groups. The Boosters Club has received it, the police department, the firefighters, any group in town that's giving to the school in a way that's over and above the normal. We recognize them too. So again, that's the inclusiveness of the whole Alumni Association Hall of Fame.
Right.
You know, it recognizes, So we have teachers, coaches.
Right.
That
And
never
just
went
making
to,
sure that if you're a part of it, you're a part of it.
Right.
And I think that's the nice part that everybody embraces those.
and even the scholarships. I mean, again, and we have an endowment fund. We don't give away the money we bring in each year.
Right.
We've invested it, and we use that money. So that's going to stay. We have almost $2 million on endowment fund, which is pretty cool for a public high school alumni association. I think that's real special.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah. Oh,
You
it makes a huge difference, and it makes a difference in the lives of our young kids, right? And getting those scholarships.
And the first donation to that was a talk about family history in the town of Chelmsford. The guy's last name was Parkhurst.
Right.
And you can find signs in town that go back to, I think, the 1700s of Parkhurst on it.
Right.
It was George Parkhurst gave us a check that
Yeah.
night to start that.
Which, I mean, that's just kind of an amazing thing. Like you said, like an endowment within a high school.
Yeah. I mean, it's unheard of.
Is there anybody else that has?
Not that
it in
I
the
know
area?
of.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has a Hall of Fame like ours. There've been a few that have been
Probably
kind of similar.
Right.
Lowell High has an awards night, but it's nothing to the extent that ours is.
And it doesn't hurt that we have a great boosters group, though,
The
too.
Boosters Club is excellent right now. It was very active about 20 years ago, and then it kind of fell away. And, you know, you have these ups and downs. But the group that's running it now, I can't say enough about how much and how hard work they put in and giving back to all the athletes and to the school. Yeah, it's a great group of people.
So what do you think, though, when you left the fire department? Did you really think that you could do that?
I'll tell you, I had to leave by age.
Okay.
I wanted to stay. It's tough. And the job itself, it's for some people, I don't think they invest as much of their personal life in it. I did. And it became part of me. And I think you need time to kind of get away from it because it's leaving a family. I still go in and visit the guys because you're there with them 24 hours at a time. You're living, you're eating, drinking, sleeping, and the calls can be as mundane as, you know, someone came home and heard a smoke detector going off and it's nothing, to a raging fire where people were killed. And the year, and not again to pat myself on the back, I got a Firefighter of the Year award.
Right.
But the tragedy is that there were 2 people killed in that fire. We got a lot of people out of that building. And that's why we were recognized as a group, Unit 2. But
You were recognized by the governor at the time.
yeah, the governor, the chief nominated us, and we were awarded that recognition they have an award ceremony every year. And it's a great recognition, but there's also sadness in losing someone, you know. And working in your own town, it's great working in your own town.
Yeah.
You know, you have that connection, you know people, but it can be stressful because you go into people you know sometimes.
Right.
Because we respond in the fire department to all medicals, all accidents, all calls. Anybody has a problem, you know, oh, I smell something strange. Call the fire department.
Right.
You know, and then you find out it's the guy next door, you know, throwing something out his backyard. It was a great career, it really was. And it was tough leaving.
Right.
It was tough leaving. At 36 and a half years, like I said, I anticipated only working a few years and bailing out maybe. But the group of people you work with, I work with one, I know you interviewed Bruce Brime, his kid, Eric. I kind of took him under my wing a little bit. Great kid. And he's a kid from Chelmsford. Again, this is the people we get. There's some great women and men that work there now. The thing to remember, too, they put their lives on the line every single day, like the police officers do. I know your family has a lot of police officers. And I'll tell you, the town of Chelmsford is blessed to have the men and women of those 2 departments working for. I know the other departments work great,
Right.
but no one puts their life on the line every single day for the short money when you think about what an actor makes appearing in front of a camera, right? So anyway,
we all saw.
yeah, but
Well, listen, I think that the town of Chelmsford, though, I mean, obviously, you've boasted the town of Chelmsford. I mean, you've helped it with the fire department. I mean, you can't say enough about the Hall of Fame and making sure that everybody that comes through here and that goes through the school has something to be inspired by. And so today, thank you very much, because you've inspired me that I guess I gotta give back in some other ways to the town. I'm not here all the time, but
this show's a great way to give back, Heather. I think it's super, and
So-
I appreciate you inviting me to be here tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you being a guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So to everybody, I hope you enjoyed our show today, and we'll be back with another Where Are They? Where Are They Now? Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.